Good evening. I'm Mike Marza as we take a look back at another day of testimony in the trial of Sean Diddy Combs. Today, prosecutors expressed some concerns over a juror in this case. And testimony continued from one of Combs' ex-girlfriends using the name Jane. In just a moment, we'll be joined by ABC News legal contributor Bernarda Vlona to dig deeper into everything that happened in court. But first up, here's Darla Miles with a recap from Lower Manhattan.
Defense attorneys for Sean Diddy Combs accusing federal prosecutors of a thinly veiled effort to dismiss a black juror from the 55-year-old mogul sex trafficking and racketeering trial. At issue, juror number 6, a black male from the Bronx. Wednesday afternoon, the U.S. Attorney's Office citing his lack of candor, but not going much further about what's at issue. Juror number 6 is seated on the front row of the jury box, directly across from the podium where attorneys from both sides question witnesses. Federal prosecutors waving the flag just a week after Judge Arun Subramanian threatened to remove Combs from the courtroom for the duration of the trial for his nonverbal communications directed at the jury box. Subramanian saying he will resolve this issue by the end of the week. Also today, defense attorneys continuing their cross-examination of his girlfriend testifying under the pseudonym Jane, reviewing dozens of text messages, including one she sent Combs in 2022, demanding he cut short a vacation with the singer known as Young Miami, another girlfriend he had at the time. That text message reading, "If you don't come home now, we're not going to do anything you want to do." Jane telling the court, "That was the first time I was so upset that I pulled that card." Defense attorneys asking, "The hotel night card?" Jane answering yes. Defense attorneys also reviewing a text from Jane to Combs during her birthday trip to Miami in 2023 saying, "Baby, is Nobu the only option tonight?" Jane telling the court, "He conveniently booked us in a private hotel with a private entrance to the restaurant. I'm asking if he could please romance me outside of hotel rooms. This is a subtle cue to my partner." But when pressed about 2 different restaurant options she put in the text thread, Jane again getting testy when asked by Tenny Garagos, "You know Poppy Steak is a good restaurant in Miami." Jane answering, "I wouldn't know." Garagos asking again, "Carbone is another international Italian restaurant, right?" Jane snapping, "I guess so." Now, this is the 6.5th week of prosecutors presenting their case here on Sean Diddy Combs. We just learned today that the prosecution will now come to an end, perhaps by between Wednesday and Friday of next week. They plan to rest their case.
Joined now by ABC News legal contributor Bernarda Vlona to talk about what happened today in court. Bernarda, always great to see you.
Great to see you, Mike.
So the biggest headline coming out of today, Jane still on the stand.
Yes.
So we're still hearing her account of everything that went down with her experiences with Sean Combs. What was the biggest takeaway for you?
The biggest takeaway, I guess, is the entire focus of the cross-examination, meaning that Tenny Garagos, she's focusing on going through text messages. That's literally what we're hearing. Hours and hours of text messages between the relationship of Sean Combs and Jane, and sometimes with a couple of sprinkles of Jane with these entertainers.
And so what are we learning? Because this is really tedious testimony that we're talking about, specific dates, specific text messages, and the trove of digital information that prosecutors had to go through to be able to focus in and hone in on these particular dates. What was so significant about some of the text that they were talking about today?
So in terms of the text messages, we got to remember that during the direct examination by the government, by the prosecutors, they also entered text messages to try to corroborate the testimony of Jane, of when she told explicitly Sean Combs that she no longer wanted to engage in these freak-offs and these hotel nights, as she frames it. So that was important for the prosecution to give an idea of how she felt and how she expressed herself to Sean Combs, so he can be on notice that she does not want to do this. This is against her will. Now, on the flip side, the defense yesterday and especially today for about 4 hours or so, they were going through the text messages where she was saying that she actually enjoyed these hotel nights. Also going through the text messages of the jealousy that she had of Sean Combs, seeing Sean Combs with other women, especially on social media, of his dates with other women, and those women actually posting that to their social media accounts. But also they took it also a step further. During the direct examination of Jane, prosecutors got from her that 90% of the time that she spent with Sean Combs was to engage in these hotel nights. Now today, for over an hour, the defense attorney was going through text messages where she was able to pinpoint dates that Jane spent time with Sean Combs and they weren't engaged in a hotel night, that they were actually spending time together. So that will rebut her credibility as to this frequency of these hotel nights and that she didn't want to engage in them. So that was pretty much the target of the defense doing this entire cross-examination of Jane, portray her as like, look, you loved him, you wanted to satisfy your lover. I wanted to satisfy my lover, my partner, because that's her language, doing all the times that she just wanted to make him happy. Two, that she really was getting something out of this relationship. That's why she continued in this relationship, that she was free to leave. She just did not want to leave. And three, of course, that she was the one who actually organized a lot of these hotel nights, that it wasn't strictly Sean Combs. And
we learned today in some of the detail, some of these hotel nights, at least one in particular, that she organized a meetup with two other guys.
Yes, yes. She wanted to do a surprise night for Sean Combs, and she was the one who actually organized two men to appear doing one of these hotel nights, again showing that she was the one who initiated that. So while she may be having buyer's remorse now, that's not what she expressed doing 2021 to 2024 when they were actually together.
So how did the jury, or at least how do we perceive the jury, sort of taking this all in and understanding and trying to make out the concept of what the defense is trying to do to kind of go back to the testimony that she first gave? What was the reaction?
Exactly. So you got to think, so the jury they're paying close attention. They are taking notes. But I did notice today that it seems like the jurors aren't taking as many notes as they were during direct examination. So that's a bit concerning, because it could be like, I have my mind made up, or I'm tired of hearing this, or, you know, I just want her off the stand already. But what's going to come down to it, remember, these jurors aren't going to remember every text message that was read to them. Obviously, they're taking notes, but they're not supposed to rely on their notes exclusively. If they want something read back to them when they're deliberating, then they have to ask the judge to read back some of their testimony. So that's why it's going to come down to closing arguments, where both sides are going to have to tell this jury, this is what you need to focus on. This is what I was trying to get through when I was asking these questions of these witnesses. This is why it's important and why it's relevant to the charges. I have to say this, Mike. So while the defense was focusing on Jane and how she was getting these entertainers and that she wanted to enter into these hotel nights, they're focusing on the sex trafficking charge. But the problem is, with you focusing on the sex trafficking charge, there's no issue or contesting that these entertainers were hired for sex. And if that's the case, then you're losing on the transportation to engage in prostitution, at least the defense is. So I guess what they're trying to do is say, like, look, we want to beat the strongest charges, and we're okay, not okay, but we're willing to settle with the lesser of the charges.
It's important to point out, too, once we get to the deliberation phase, and we're not there just yet.
Nowhere near it.
but as we sort of like think about how all of this could be setting in for the jury, they can attack each of these counts separately, meaning they can find a different judgment based on each count.
Absolutely. Right? So you think that it's racketeering conspiracy, and that's the one that if Sean Combs were to be found guilty, in reality he can face up to life on that one, also given his age. So you have the racketeering conspiracy, and really you can find him guilty of the racketeering conspiracy and not guilty of the sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, or the transportation to engage in prostitution. Because with the racketeering conspiracy, you're saying that he formed a criminal enterprise, is the agreement to fulfill the purposes of this criminal enterprise, and that he engaged in at least two patterns of racketeering acts, which is arson. So we know that's Kid Cudi's car. The kidnapping, Capricorn on two different occasions, having to deal with the lie detector, and then when supposedly Sean Combs put her in a car and they drove out to Kid Cudi's house. So you have that. You have the bribery and the witness tampering, which having to do with the money that they paid that security guard at the Intercontinental Hotel to get that video footage. So literally, you can find him guilty focusing on those witnesses and not even thinking about Cassie or Jane. So they can find him guilty on different counts.
There was a development today with one of the jurors. And is it the defense is asking for an issue or a ruling on, was it juror number 6?
So, Mike, we're not sure what's really going down. So what we do know for a fact, there is an issue with one of the jurors on the main jury, one of the 12. So we believe it's juror number 6 just because an attorney slipped out the number, juror number 6. So in terms, I believe it was Monday, that judge asked for the lead attorney on the prosecution and the lead attorney on the defense side to accompany him in chambers with the court reporter. As soon as he said court reporter, we know that's something on the record. They sealed that record so that way the public doesn't know exactly what was discussed. But again, yesterday it was addressed, and the defense attorney slipped out juror number 6, and that they wanted an opportunity to put in papers regarding the issue. Again, it came up today. Again, they're not saying exactly what the issue is. All we know is that it involves juror number 6. The prosecution said something about that it has to deal with that juror's candor. So it could have been something that he did not state or did state when he was being questioned. And the defense made the allegation that this is a way of the prosecution trying to get rid of a black juror. The judge said that he'll reach a decision probably by the end of the week, and he'll let the parties know. Important to note that if that juror is taken off of the jury, that doesn't mean that there's a mistrial, because that's why they have alternate jurors, and alternate juror will ultimately replace that main juror.
Interesting. We'll see how it all plays out as we continue. As you mentioned, we're not there yet.
Not there yet.
Court resumes tomorrow morning. Stay with Eyewitness News and ABC 7 and Y for all the new updates. We have a real-time blog as well, following the details from the courtroom.